What we're going to do today is make a pain salve. So for this ingredients, we're going to need some beeswax, and beeswax can come in different forms. You can get a block of beeswax, or I prefer to get the pellets because when they're small like this, they're easy to dissolve. So we're going to really need that, and also you want some oil. Commonly we use olive oil, but you don't have to use olive oil if you've just got, you know, jojoba oil, apricot oil, almond oil, even canola oil, but I prefer to use olive oil or some of the nut oils, and that can preserve up to 5 years depending on how you make and store the oil. We're going to take some of our beeswax, and for this recipe we're going to use 1/5 of a cup. Now I've got 1/4 of a cup, so we're not going to quite feel that. Now if you're in a hot climate, you want to use more beeswax compared to the oil. So just as a standard rule, you use between 1 to 5 parts of beeswax to olive oil or your base oil. So we're going to put this in a saucepan. We're going to use a double boiler here. So I'm just going to put it in the top there. And then for this recipe, we're going to use 1 cup of olive oil. We're using extra virgin cold press olive oil. So we're just going to pour it in there. And olive oil is really good for the skin, and so also is beeswax. It has its own innate properties that help with inflammation, and also beeswax tends to help slowly release the essential oils in through the skin. So the combination of oil and beeswax is a wonderful combination. What you want to do is put that on a low temperature, and you may want to put it up to nearly medium heat. And we've got some water in the bottom here, so that we're going to slowly cook or melt the beeswax. So you just get yourself a wooden spoon and start to slowly mix this. So you can see the wax is melted in the oil. So we're just going to pour that now in a glass jar. Okay, now just to add a little preservation to it, you could include a few drops of vitamin E oil, and you only need 1 drop per ounce of oil and beeswax. So we have about 8 ounces in here, so you'd only need to add about 8 drops of the vitamin E oil. So why don't we just go ahead and do that right now. Okay, now some of the oils, especially the antiseptic oils, they can actually have some of their properties destroyed if the temperature is too hot. So when the oil with the beeswax that's already melted, when that starts to cool down a little bit, you'll see a little bit of an opaque type ring around the edge, because that's where the coolest part is, around the edge of the glass. So it will start to go a little bit opaque in about 5 to 10 minutes. And so you want to have your oils ready so that once it gets to that time, it's already you already got your oils started mixing in there, and then we go ahead and pour it in a container. So for this particular salve, I'm going to start adding some wintergreen oil. Wintergreen is fantastic for pain. You really want to use it, especially if you have any injury, muscle injuries, things like that. It's a fantastic oil. Will help with sports injuries. Is very fast acting, and if you've got some bruises, you've got some injuries, it can really help with that. So I'd encourage you to use wintergreen. You don't want to take that internally, by the way, so just be careful about using that internally. Frankincense is another oil that is fantastic for pain. It's also one of the oils that can heal the deepest of wounds. It's anti-inflammatory. It's got its antiviral, antibacterial properties of itself. And it's no coincidence that Jesus was given frankincense oil. It's used in the sanctuary. It's often quoted in scripture, used for the even the showbread that they put on the table, and also the incense that they use. So frankincense is very powerful. It's a little bit expensive, but it's worth getting. So we're going to use those two oils. Another oil we're going to use is turmeric oil. Okay, now turmeric has been known as one of the best anti-inflammatory agents out there. So I highly recommend this type of oil. So you want to use that if you're going to be dealing with any inflammation and pain that's related to inflammation. Now, when you're making a salve, you want to keep in mind that you've got to have 90 to 95% of your salve is going to be your oil and your beeswax that's melted, and the other 5 to 10% is going to be your essential oils. So we're using a plastic 4-ounce container. Now this is what we call polypropylene. Polypropylene is one of the few plastics that you can safely use with essential oils, because a lot of plastics they use actually dissolve the plastic. So this one doesn't, so we're going to use that. Now we're not going to fill it right up to the top, we're just going to leave a little bit of room there so we can put some essential oils in. Okay, so I think that's about right. Now for this particular recipe, I'm going to use half a teaspoon of frankincense oil. This is a teaspoon. That's about right. And then I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of wintergreen oil. And we're going to use another half a teaspoon of the turmeric oil. Okay, I think we're just about used it up. There we go. Okay, we're just going to give that a little bit of a stir. Now it's going to take a few minutes before it starts to solidify. And sometimes if you're doing a lot of these at once, you're really racing against the clock to try to get them ready before they start to go solid. But if it does actually go solid before you get those oils mixed in, then you can actually get a hairdryer and you can actually heat that back up, melt it, and then put your oils in there and let it sit. So, and there we go there. So that's about the hardness you want, and you want to apply this into the area, massaging it in, and sometimes you want to do it 3 times or even more a day to keep that inflammation down. So that's how you make a salve. I wish you all the best in making it. I think you will be greatly blessed in doing this. And by the way, we're going to be making different types of salves. So this is just for pain and inflammation, but once you get this basic recipe down with the beeswax and the oil, then you can start using different essential oils for different formulas. So that's the beauty about it, is once you've made one batch, you can use several different combinations to make different salves. So good luck, and I wish you all the best in making your salve that helps with your pain.